Most people never realize it, but the habits we carry into our golden years can silently chip away at our health and shorten our lives. It's a startling fact that nearly 3 out of every 4 people who don't make it past 85 share some very common, deadly habits. Habits many of us don't even recognize as harmful. The truth is, aging isn't just about genes or luck, it's about the daily choices we make. Some of the healthiest, most vibrant 90-year-olds I know have managed to avoid these traps, and their secret lies in breaking free from just 5 critical habits. These aren't complicated medical treatments or expensive therapies, but simple, practical changes anyone can start today. Whether it's the way you move or don't move, how you sleep, who you connect with, what you eat, or how you handle stress, every choice matters more than you might think. If you're over 60 and ready to take control of your health, this story will reveal the exact habits to watch for, how to test yourself, and most importantly, how to turn things around so you can live a longer, fuller life with energy and independence. Your best years aren't behind you, they're still ahead. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. Sedentary lifestyle, sitting too much. When we picture the American dream of retirement, many of us imagine finally having the time to savor a morning cup of coffee, read the paper cover to cover, work on a puzzle, catch up on favorite shows, and enjoy hours of peaceful relaxation. For years, we have looked forward to leaving the hectic pace of working life behind and embracing days filled with leisure. But what if I told you that this peaceful, chair-bound routine, the very reward for decades of hard work, could be quietly stealing away your health, your independence, and even years of your life? Take Sandra, for example. At 68, she had always been a model of what most folks would call healthy living. Every morning, rain or shine, she slipped on her sneakers and took a brisk, 30-minute walk around the neighborhood, waving to friends and neighbors, breathing in the fresh air, and feeling proud that she was doing what her doctor recommended. Her fridge was stocked with colorful vegetables, and she took her vitamins with the devotion of someone who wanted to stay well for her children and grandchildren. Yet, despite this, Sandra felt more tired than she expected. Her knees ached a bit more each month, and she noticed it was becoming harder to get up from her favorite armchair after reading or watching TV. At her annual checkup, her doctor delivered a wake-up call she never saw coming. "Sandra," he said, "your heart and blood pressure are telling me something your daily walk isn't fixing. Tell me, how many hours do you sit each day?" Sandra did the math. An hour with the morning paper, 2 more spent on the crossword, a couple of hours chatting with friends on the phone, and then afternoons spent catching up on TV and working on crafts at the kitchen table. By the end of the day, she realized she had been sitting for more than 10 hours. That number shocked her. She's not alone. The truth is, millions of Americans over 60 spend most of their waking hours sitting. Some call it the new smoking, and the comparison is no exaggeration. Researchers from the American Journal of Epidemiology have found that older adults who sit for 8 or more hours a day are at a 60% greater risk of dying early than those who are more active. Sitting quietly might seem harmless, especially compared to bad habits like smoking or overeating, but its effects are profound, especially as we age. Why is sitting so dangerous for seniors, even those who fit in a daily walk? After 60, our bodies naturally start to slow down. Our metabolism drops by about 2 to 3% each year. Our circulation isn't what it once was, making it easier for blood to pool in the legs, which can lead to dangerous clots. Muscle mass begins to shrink, and what used to be a minor ache or stiffness can quickly become a real limitation. What feels uncomfortable to a 40-year-old can become a real threat to the independence of someone in their 70s or 80s. Think of it this way: going for a daily walk is wonderful, but it doesn't erase the damage caused by sitting the rest of the day. Imagine a smoker who has one salad every day and expects it to cancel out a pack of cigarettes. It just doesn't work like that. Our bodies were designed to move regularly, not just once or twice a day, but in small doses, scattered throughout our waking hours. Sandra's experience is echoed in households all across America. Many seniors find comfort in routine and familiar spaces, settling into a recliner for a baseball game, knitting in a sunny spot, catching up with loved ones over long phone calls, or simply watching the world go by from the porch. These habits may seem benign, but the cumulative effect on the body is undeniable. You might be wondering how you can tell if sitting is already taking a toll on your health. Here's a simple test Sandra's doctor shared, one anyone can do at home. Sit in a sturdy chair with your arms crossed over your chest. Now, try to stand up and sit back down 5 times in a row, without using your hands or swinging your body for momentum. If you struggle or can't do it at all, it's a sign your muscles are already losing strength from too much sitting. For Sandra, this was a sobering realization. She managed only 2 before her legs began to tremble. But the risks go beyond muscle weakness. Prolonged sitting causes blood to stagnate in the legs, increasing the risk of blood clots by 300%. It interferes with insulin sensitivity, making it easier to develop diabetes. Perhaps most alarming, sitting too much reduces blood flow to the brain by up to 20%, hastening cognitive decline and even dementia. The body systems, muscles, heart, brain, blood vessels, work best when in motion, not at rest. The story doesn't end there, though. Sandra, like so many others, found hope and healing not through grand, exhausting exercise routines, but through simple, consistent changes. She learned about what some doctors now call the 50-10 rule. For every 50 minutes spent sitting, get up and move for 10. That movement doesn't have to mean going for a run or lifting heavy weights. For Sandra, it started with standing up to stretch, doing gentle leg lifts during TV commercials, or walking around the house while talking on the phone. She even invested in a standing desk converter, so she could work on her beloved crossword puzzles upright. The transformation was remarkable. Within 3 months, Sandra could stand and sit 10 times in a row with ease. Her energy improved, her blood sugar levels stabilized, and the itchiness in her joints faded. Even her memory seemed sharper. Her doctor, once concerned, was now amazed at her improvement. Most importantly, Sandra felt like herself again, capable, confident, and independent. It's easy to underestimate how much we sit. That's why awareness is key. Many seniors are surprised to realize just how many hours slip by in a chair. It helps to set reminders, maybe a simple timer on your phone or a note by the TV. March in place, stretch your arms, roll your shoulders, or walk to the mailbox every hour. Small, consistent actions add up. There's another layer to this, one that's deeply emotional and social. The less we move, the less we feel like ourselves. Independence is a cherished part of the American spirit, and nothing threatens it faster than losing physical function. When we struggle to get out of a chair, it can feel like life is shrinking. But just as physical decline sneaks up slowly, so does improvement. Every time you choose to get up and move, you're reclaiming a bit of strength, dignity, and freedom. For many, the idea of exercising more can be intimidating or even unwelcome. Maybe old injuries linger, or you've been told to take it easy by a well-meaning family. But moving more doesn't mean pain or exhaustion. It means weaving gentle movement into the fabric of daily life, watering the garden, dancing in the kitchen to an old song, playing on the floor with grandchildren, or simply standing to look out the window. Remember, the goal isn't to become a marathon runner. It's to keep the body in motion, keep blood flowing, muscles firing, and joints supple. The benefits touch every aspect of life, from sleep quality and mood to memory and heart health. Sandra's journey from a sedentary routine to a life filled with movement is not unique, but it is inspiring. It's a reminder that no matter our age, we have the power to choose differently, to honor the bodies that have carried us so far, and to reclaim the vibrant, independent life we deserve. So the next time you find yourself settled comfortably in your favorite chair, remember Sandra. Stand up, stretch, and take a few steps. Your body and your future will thank you. 2. Poor sleep habits. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For most of his adult life, Carl prided himself on being disciplined and reliable. Even after retiring from a career in finance, he liked his routines: a cup of hot black coffee in the morning, an early dinner with his wife, and lights out by 10:30 every night. Carl figured he was doing everything right. After all, wasn't it common knowledge that as we age, we just don't need as much sleep? He heard it from friends, from neighbors, even from the local news. Older folks just tend to get by on less. But as the years went by and Carl entered his 70s, he started to notice little changes. Most days, his energy would tank in the early afternoon, leaving him groggy and irritable. He brushed it off at first. Just a part of getting older, he thought. But the forgetfulness crept in, too. He'd walk into a room and wonder why he was there. Names escaped him, even of people he'd known for years. His blood pressure, once steady as a drum, crept higher despite his best efforts to eat right and stay active. It all came to a head one morning after a routine checkup. His doctor asked how he was sleeping. "Oh, 5 or 6 hours a night," Carl replied. "That's normal for folks my age, right?" The doctor shook her head. "Carl, that's a dangerous myth. Seniors need just as much sleep as younger adults, ideally 7 to 9 hours a night. And when we skimp on good sleep, the consequences pile up faster than you'd believe." Carl was stunned. He'd always thought sleep was something he could shortchange. As he listened, his doctor explained what happens when we age and our sleep falters. In our 60s and beyond, our bodies slow down. The nightly process of repair, of washing away toxins in the brain, fixing tiny cracks in the blood vessels, recharging the immune system, takes longer. Sleep becomes not just a time for rest, but a vital engine for maintaining health. Missing even a couple of hours, night after night, can quietly accelerate memory loss, raise blood pressure, and increase the risk of heart attacks, stroke, diabetes, and even Alzheimer's. Carl felt a knot of worry in his stomach. Could something as simple as broken sleep be making him feel old before his time? At home, Carl started paying closer attention to his sleep. He realized it wasn't just about how long he was in bed, but the quality of his rest. Some nights he fell asleep easily, but then woke up 5 or 6 times to use the bathroom, or because of a sore hip, or even just because his mind wouldn't stop worrying about tomorrow. He'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wishing for sleep that never quite came. His afternoons became a daily struggle. Between 2 and 4 o'clock, he felt a heaviness that made even reading the paper a chore. His memory was foggy, and he found himself snapping at his wife for little things, then feeling ashamed afterward. His world felt smaller, dimmer, less alive. One afternoon, after dozing off in his recliner for the 3rd time that week, Carl's granddaughter stopped by for a visit. She found him in his chair, TV blaring, the crossword puzzle unfinished on his lap. "Grandpa, are you okay?" she asked, concern in her voice. He tried to brush her off, but she pressed on. "You've seemed so tired lately. Did you know sleep is the most important thing for your brain?" She smiled. "That's what my teacher said." It was a turning point for Carl. He decided he couldn't ignore this problem any longer. He began to research what seniors like him could do to get better sleep, real, restorative sleep, not just tossing and turning all night. He learned about the 3-2-1 rule that sleep specialists often recommend for older adults. No large meals 3 hours before bed, no liquids 2 hours before bed, and no screens, like TV, tablets, or phones, 1 hour before bedtime. He started keeping his dinners light and finished eating early in the evening, making sure not to drink too much water late at night. Another change was creating what his doctor called a worry window. Every evening before bed, Carl would sit quietly and write down anything he was anxious about: his grocery list, bills to pay, calls he needed to make. Then, he'd physically put the list away, telling himself he'd done what he could for now. To his surprise, he found it helped quiet his racing thoughts. Carl also invested in a few simple bedroom upgrades. He bought blackout curtains, which kept out the glow from the streetlights and made the room pitch dark, something he hadn't realized mattered so much. He set the thermostat to a cool, steady 66 degrees, learning that seniors often have trouble regulating body temperature at night and that cooler rooms support deeper sleep. He also noticed how much even a tiny night light or the blinking numbers from the alarm clock could disturb his rest. So he unplugged electronics and used a dim, motion-activated light in the hallway for bathroom trips. Slowly, things started to change. Within 6 weeks, Carl was regularly sleeping 7 or even 8 hours a night. The difference was almost miraculous. He stopped dozing off in the middle of the day. His mind felt sharper, and his memory improved. He could recall details from yesterday's conversations, or the names of old friends who called to check in. His blood pressure readings went down, and his doctor even reduced one of his medications. Most importantly, Carl felt more like himself again, ready to take on new projects, call old friends, and play cards with his grandchildren. Along the way, he discovered hidden sleep disruptors he'd never considered. Some of his medications, prescribed years ago, had side effects that interfered with sleep. With his doctor's guidance, he switched the timing or changed prescriptions where possible. He realized anxiety about health, money, or simply about getting older could sneak up at night, so he practiced gentle breathing exercises before bed and learned to ask for help when he needed it. Carl also joined a senior walking group. The regular exercise, especially when done outside in the morning, helped set his body's internal clock. And the social time gave him something to look forward to, reducing the loneliness that so often kept him awake at night. He learned that small changes, like reading a physical book instead of scrolling on his phone before bed, had a bigger impact than he ever expected. Over time, Carl began to see sleep not as a luxury, but as the foundation of healthy aging. He saw how good sleep boosted his mood, stabilized his blood sugar, and made him feel connected to the world around him. He encouraged friends at the community center to pay attention to their sleep too, sharing what he'd learned, that it's never too late to fix poor sleep habits, and that doing so can give you back the energy, clarity, and joy you deserve. For anyone who finds themselves waking up tired, napping through the day, or struggling to recall yesterday's news, Carl's journey is a reminder. Sleep isn't just for the young, it's a gift we can all reclaim, no matter our age. Each restful night is an investment, not just in the days ahead, but in the memories, laughter, and independence that make life worth living. 3. Social isolation and loneliness. Rita never imagined her golden years would feel so quiet. For decades, her home had been a hub of life, a place where the front door swung open to laughter, family gatherings, neighborhood coffee hours, and grandchildren darting through rooms with sticky hands and bright, unburdened laughter. But after her husband Frank passed away just a few months after his 65th birthday, life took on a muted, echoing stillness. At first, Rita assumed this was simply the way of things. Frank had been her partner in everything: gardening, church events, road trips to see the leaves change in the fall. His loss created an ache that was more than emotional. It was physical, leaving her exhausted by afternoon and awake at night, listening to the sounds of an empty house. At first, friends and neighbors reached out with casseroles and invitations, but Rita, always polite, always grateful, found herself turning them down more often than not. She told herself it was easier to just stay in, to putter around the house, to spend her evenings reading or doing puzzles rather than risk breaking down in front of others. Before long, her world had quietly shrunk. What used to be a calendar full of social events became just a string of routine appointments: a weekly trip to the grocery store, church on Sundays, and the occasional doctor's visit. She told her daughter she was keeping busy, but in truth, her days felt long and her nights longer still. Rita's story is far from unique. Across America, millions of seniors find themselves drifting into social isolation, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. A move to a new neighborhood, the passing of a spouse, adult children busy with their own lives, or declining health that makes getting out more difficult. Often, the change is so gradual that it goes unnoticed until one day, the silence becomes deafening. What Rita didn't realize was just how dangerous this quiet had become. Scientists now know that social isolation isn't just a feeling. It's a serious health risk. Studies have found that chronic loneliness can be as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, increases the risk of heart disease, dementia, and even early death. For seniors, the risk is even greater, as time and distance chip away at once vibrant support systems. Loneliness isn't about being physically alone. It's about feeling disconnected, even when others are nearby. For Rita, there were days when the phone rang and she let it go to voicemail, her heart aching to talk but her energy too low to answer. There were mornings when she woke and realized she hadn't had a meaningful conversation in days. These stretches of silence began to feel normal, even though a part of her missed the old noisy house filled with family and friends. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Everything changed one crisp autumn morning when her granddaughter, Emma, came to visit. Emma was in college now, and her visits were rare, but she brought with her a burst of energy and warmth that filled the little kitchen. As they sat together over tea, Emma gently asked, "Grandma, do you ever get lonely?" The question hung in the air, honest and raw. Rita hesitated, but then nodded, blinking back tears. Emma squeezed her hand. "It's okay to say yes. I think everyone does sometimes. But I miss you. And I know others do too." That night, Rita lay awake thinking about Emma's words. She realized she didn't want to spend her days like this, walled off from the world. So she made a promise to herself. Each month, she'd try to make one new connection. It wouldn't be about filling her calendar, but about finding purpose and meaning, the kind that brightens the spirit and makes a person feel truly alive. The first step was the hardest. Rita signed up to volunteer at a local literacy center, helping adults learn to read. She worried she might not be needed, that her sadness might get in the way. But she quickly found the opposite was true. The simple act of showing up, of being present for someone else, brought a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. From there, her world began to expand again. She joined a walking club at the local community center, where she met other seniors, each with their own stories of loss and resilience. On Saturdays, she offered to babysit for her neighbor's grandchildren, a favor that soon became the highlight of her week, as the little ones brought their kind of joyful chaos back into her life. Rita also found strength in connecting across generations. She started mentoring young mothers at her church, sharing the lessons and recipes she'd collected over a lifetime. In these exchanges, she rediscovered her value, not just as a mother and grandmother, but as a woman with wisdom and love to give. She even embraced technology, though it wasn't always easy. With Emma's help, she learned to video chat, joining her family's virtual holiday celebrations and reconnecting with old friends who'd moved across the country. She joined an online support group for widows, where she found comfort in shared experience and encouragement. As Rita's days filled with meaning and connection, her health improved, too. Her doctor noted her blood pressure was lower, her sleep deeper, and her spirits brighter. She no longer dreaded the quiet evenings. Instead, she often found herself looking forward to the next day's adventure, whether it was baking cookies with the neighbor kids or meeting a friend for coffee. The science is clear. Humans are wired for connection. The need to belong doesn't fade with age. It grows more vital. Social bonds can boost immune function, sharpen the mind, and protect the heart. They bring laughter, comfort, and a sense of being needed. Gifts that no medication or supplement can replace. For seniors who find themselves in Rita's shoes, it's important to remember that rebuilding connections doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with a phone call, a wave to a neighbor, or joining a local group, even when the first steps feel awkward or uncomfortable. It might mean asking for help or letting others know you'd like company, even if you haven't before. Loneliness is a heavy burden, but it lightens with each genuine interaction. Whether it's volunteering, mentoring, learning something new, or simply reaching out to old friends, these connections create a lifeline, a reminder that none of us are truly alone, no matter how empty the house might feel. Rita's story is a testament to the power of small changes, the courage to reach out, and the willingness to open up to others. Her journey from isolation to connection brought back color and meaning to her days, and in turn, gave hope and comfort to those around her. If you, or someone you love, feels the creeping silence of loneliness, let Rita's story be an invitation. There is always time to reconnect, to find new purpose, and to bring warmth and laughter back into your life. In doing so, you not only add years to your life, but life to your years. 4. Inflammatory diet and poor nutrition. David always considered himself a health-conscious man. He'd grown up in the Midwest, raised on the principles of the food pyramid and the advice of his childhood doctor, who swore by whole wheat bread and a glass of orange juice every morning. For decades, David followed the same routine: toast with jam, a bowl of low-fat yogurt, and a tall, frosty glass of orange juice, believing this was the key to starting his day right. Even as he entered his 70s, David felt proud of his habits. He bought heart-healthy cereals, kept vegetable oil on hand for cooking, and steered clear of red meat. It all seemed like the sensible thing to do. But gradually, small problems crept in. He noticed a persistent ache in his joints and an afternoon fog that seemed to cloud his thinking, no matter how well he slept. His hands swelled more often, and the smallest of scrapes seemed to linger on his skin, healing slower than before. He chalked it up to getting older. What else could it be? At his annual physical, David's doctor reviewed his blood work with a frown. "Your inflammation markers are high, and your blood sugar is creeping up," she said, pointing to numbers on the chart. "Have you changed anything in your diet?" David shook his head, feeling a bit defensive. "I've been eating the same way for years: whole grains, lots of fruit juice, and low-fat everything." The doctor sighed and smiled gently. "That's just it, David. What worked for us when we were younger, and even what we were taught was healthy, often works against us as we get older." As the days passed, David began to research the foods he'd always trusted. He was shocked to learn that his morning toast and orange juice, symbols of healthy living for his generation, were causing a surge in his blood sugar that his aging body could no longer handle. The orange juice, he discovered, was flooding his system with fructose, which his 74-year-old liver struggled to process. His whole wheat toast, far from being gentle on his blood sugar, actually spiked it higher than a candy bar would. And the low-fat yogurt he faithfully chose was loaded with hidden sugars. But that wasn't all. The vegetable oils he used for sautéing onions and frying eggs were high in omega-6 fatty acids, which modern research now links to chronic inflammation. The so-called healthy crackers he munched on in the afternoons were another culprit, carbohydrate-laden snacks that sent his blood sugar on a roller coaster. Suddenly, the aches in his joints, the brain fog, and the lingering cuts all made sense. Inflammation, he learned, was the silent fire burning in the background of his body, damaging cells, slowing healing, and setting the stage for diseases like diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's, arthritis, and even certain cancers. The symptoms he'd dismissed as inevitable signs of old age were signals his body was struggling under the weight of decades of misguided advice and processed foods. Determined to make a change, David began with small, deliberate steps. He replaced his morning toast and juice with eggs cooked in olive oil, paired with spinach and avocado. The protein kept his blood sugar steady, and the healthy fats soothed his joints. He switched out vegetable oil for extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. Instead of low-fat yogurt, he chose plain Greek yogurt, rich in protein and naturally low in sugar. Lunch became an opportunity to nourish his body rather than simply fill it. He built his meals around leafy greens, grilled salmon or chicken, a sprinkle of nuts or seeds, and a side of sweet potatoes. He discovered the power of anti-inflammatory spices, adding turmeric and black pepper to soups, and ginger and cinnamon to his morning oatmeal. Snacks were now berries and a handful of walnuts, not crackers and cookies. David also learned to be mindful of meal timing. He made lunch his largest meal of the day, when his body's insulin response was strongest, and kept dinner light and early. He drank more water and less juice, letting his body adjust to the subtle flavors of real, whole foods. In the supplement aisle, he realized most products promising to fight inflammation were little more than marketing. Instead, with his doctor's guidance, he focused on the basics. High-quality omega-3 fish oil for his heart and joints, vitamin D for his immune system, and magnesium for muscle and nerve health. The results didn't come overnight, but within a few weeks, David noticed profound changes. His joint pain lessened, making it easier to enjoy walks around the park with his wife. The afternoon brain fog lifted, and his mood steadied, gone were the grumpy, irritable spells that once seemed unavoidable. He healed faster, felt lighter on his feet, and even found himself sleeping better at night. Perhaps most astonishing was the next round of blood work. His inflammatory markers dropped dramatically. His blood sugar was back within a healthy range. Even his doctor was surprised, remarking that his numbers looked more like those of a man in his 50s than someone nearing his 75th birthday. Through it all, David realized something crucial. It was never too late to change, and his body was capable of remarkable healing when given the right tools. The healthy foods of his youth, processed grains, sugary drinks, low-fat packaged goods, were best left behind. In their place, he embraced a way of eating that was simpler, closer to what his grandparents might have recognized. Real, whole foods, cooked at home, eaten slowly, and enjoyed with gratitude. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. David also discovered that changing his diet wasn't just about physical health. Sharing new recipes with his wife became a joy. He invited neighbors over for homemade soup or salads. They traded jars of spiced nuts, fresh berries, and stories about their food journeys. Cooking became an act of connection, a way to nurture not just his body, but his relationships. For many older Americans, David's story is all too familiar. We grew up trusting food companies and nutrition labels that told us fat was the enemy, and that anything in a box, bag, or bottle with a healthy label was safe. Now, science paints a different picture, one where chronic inflammation, fueled by decades of processed foods and sugar, is the root cause of so many ailments that chip away at quality of life in our senior years. But there is hope. Every small change, swapping vegetable oil for olive oil, berries for juice, sweet potatoes for white bread, matters. The body, even in its 70s or 80s, can heal. Joints become less stiff, minds become clearer, hearts beat stronger, and the joy of living returns. David's kitchen looks different now. Bowls of fresh fruit, jars of spices, leafy greens, and the golden gleam of olive oil beside the stove. The TV dinners are gone, replaced with laughter and the smell of homemade soup simmering on the stove. He moves through his days with renewed energy, grateful for each pain-free step and every memory that surfaces with clarity. For anyone feeling trapped by old habits, remember, it's never too late to nourish your body in a way that honors all the years you've lived, and all the years still to come. The power to change, to heal, and to thrive lies within your own 2 hands, every time you step into the kitchen and make a choice that's truly good for you. 5. Chronic stress and worry. Nancy always prided herself on being a planner. Ever since she was a young mother, running a busy household in Ohio, she believed that careful thinking and a little extra worry kept her family safe. She kept checklists in her purse, mapped out meals weeks ahead, and remembered every birthday. Now, at 69, long retired and living comfortably in a cozy home filled with family photos and knitted afghans, Nancy assumed her worry would fade with time. The days of rushing to soccer practice and squeezing in errands between work and school were long behind her. But as the house grew quieter, Nancy's mind seemed only to get busier. With more time to herself, she noticed her thoughts looping endlessly, about her health, about her husband's declining memory, about her adult children's jobs and marriages, and finances, even though she and her husband had always been careful savers. She woke up most mornings with a dull ache in her chest, not from illness, but from the weight of questions she could never quite answer. What if she had missed something important? What if one of her grandchildren got sick? What if she became a burden to her family? At her annual physical, Nancy's doctor frowned as she read through the blood work results. "Your blood pressure's high, Nancy, and your cortisol, your body's stress hormone, is through the roof," she explained. Nancy was surprised. She didn't feel stressed the way she remembered from her working years, but her body told a different story. Her sleep was broken, she had little appetite in the mornings, and she'd lost interest in the gardening and baking that once brought her so much joy. Nancy's experience is a quiet epidemic among American seniors. The world likes to imagine that retirement brings peace and freedom from worry, but for millions, the opposite is true. Instead of a sense of relief, there's often a subtle but persistent anxiety that settles in. There's the ache of past regrets and unresolved family disagreements. There's the slow, creeping concern over health. Each new ache or forgotten name feels ominous. There's the fear of running out of money, or of becoming isolated and irrelevant as friends pass on or move away. And then there's the burden of caring for others. Many older adults find themselves sandwiched between helping elderly parents and worrying over their grown children and grandkids. For Nancy, stress showed up in small, insidious ways. She couldn't turn her mind off at bedtime, replaying conversations or catastrophizing about things she couldn't control. She worried about her husband's increasing forgetfulness and felt guilty when she got short with him. She felt the loss of independence, needing to ask her son for help with home repairs or feeling unsteady when driving at night. Some days, she worried that her whole life had become one long list of things to fret about. Chronic stress isn't just a feeling, it's a physical state. When the body is constantly flooded with stress hormones like cortisol, the effects ripple out, raising blood pressure, suppressing the immune system, increasing inflammation, and speeding up cellular aging. For seniors, these changes can be devastating, increasing the risk of heart attacks, stroke, diabetes, infections, and memory loss. The endless cycle of worry can erode not just peace of mind, but health, relationships, and quality of life. Nancy's turning point came after a particularly restless night, when she awoke to the early sunlight filtering through her curtains, feeling wrung out and on edge. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her cup of tea, and realized she hadn't truly enjoyed a moment in weeks. She missed the sound of her laughter, the peace she used to find in the garden, and the ease with which she used to chat with her friends. She decided something had to change. At her next checkup, Nancy spoke openly with her doctor for the first time about how she was feeling. To her relief, her doctor nodded knowingly. "You'd be surprised, Nancy, how common this is. But there's hope. The brain is flexible. Even at 70, it can learn new patterns." Nancy started small. She learned a simple mindfulness practice, sitting quietly for 5 or 10 minutes each morning, just noticing her breath, letting her thoughts come and go. It wasn't about clearing her mind, an impossible task, but rather about noticing when her mind wandered and gently bringing it back to the present. She found comfort in rituals, lighting a candle at breakfast, savoring the smell of fresh coffee, or watching birds out the window. These small moments of attention offered an anchor when worry threatened to pull her under. She also began writing down her worries before bed, keeping a worry journal on her nightstand. Each evening, she would jot down every fear, big or small, and then, crucially, close the book and tell herself she'd done what she could for today. At first, her mind resisted, but over time, she found she could fall asleep a little easier, trusting that she wouldn't forget what needed attention. Nancy created 2 lists, things she could control and things she could only influence or accept. She realized she could control her daily habits, her meals, her walks around the block, her choice to call a friend or work on a crossword puzzle. She could influence her husband's health by encouraging him to see the doctor and by supporting him lovingly. But she could not control the outcome of his memory loss, her children's choices, or the march of time itself. She learned to let go, if only a little, and to focus her energy where it made a difference. Physical movement became another tool for healing. Nancy joined a gentle yoga class at the community center, where she found camaraderie and laughter among women her age. The slow, steady stretching and mindful breathing calmed her racing thoughts and soothed her aching joints. On days when yoga felt like too much, she walked in her backyard, noticing the shifting seasons and taking joy in the smallest flowers. She also found that reaching out to others, sharing her fears and worries in a senior support group, lessened their hold over her. Hearing others speak about their anxieties made her feel less alone and brought a sense of perspective. She realized that everyone carried invisible burdens, and sometimes, simply saying them out loud was enough to begin the healing. Nancy's stress didn't disappear overnight, but it began to lose its power. Her blood pressure came down, her sleep improved, and her laughter returned. She and her husband found new ways to connect, reading to each other in the evenings, cooking favorite meals together, or reminiscing about the adventures of their youth. She focused on leaving a legacy of kindness and calm for her children and grandchildren, modeling what it means to face uncertainty with grace. For so many seniors, the storms of chronic stress and worry are real, but they are not the whole story. With support, self-compassion, and simple daily practices, it's possible to reclaim joy and purpose, even when life feels unpredictable. Nancy's journey stands as a reminder. While we can't always control what the future brings, we can choose how we meet it. One mindful breath, one caring gesture, and one peaceful moment at a time. As we come to the end of this journey, imagine once more the lives of Sandra, Carl, Rita, David, and Nancy. Each of them faced a crossroads, recognizing habits that quietly stole precious years and moments from their lives. For some, it was hours spent sitting, believing a morning walk could undo the damage of a day in the armchair. For others, it was restless nights, the ache of loneliness, the comfort of familiar but harmful foods, or the weight of worry that never quite left their hearts. But when they found the courage to change, even in small, everyday ways, their world slowly grew brighter. Their energy returned, laughter filled their homes again, and they discovered that age need not be a barrier to living fully. The lesson here is as simple as it is profound. It's never too late to make changes that bring more health, joy, and meaning to your days. Whether you're 60, 70, or even 90, the choices you make today matter. The power to shape your future, to add vibrant years to your life, is in your hands. So as you reflect on what you've heard, ask yourself, which of these stories spoke to you the most? What is one change you're ready to make? I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your wisdom may light the way for someone else on this path. And if this video has touched you, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Together, we can build a community that uplifts, inspires, and helps each other live our very best years, right here and now.